There's nothing wrong with being afraid. Everyone has their fears, right? To a certain extent, everyone has their fears. The only problem is letting it control your life. If you let it control your life, it's going to limit your potential by so much. If you're afraid to start that business, then you will forever stay at that job. You will forever have to take orders. If you are afraid to approach that woman, you will forever stay lonely. You will forever be a loser. And other guys will be fucking that chick that you could have been fucking because you're afraid. See, if you're afraid to go talk to a stranger, then you will miss out on many money opportunities, many friendships, many new networking situations that otherwise you could have been in. See, there's nothing wrong about being afraid. Like I said, if you're afraid to start that business because you've never in your life went without getting a steady paycheck, it's okay. Listen, when I was going to quit my job, I had my doubts too. Of course, I believed in myself, but yes, I had a little bit of doubt. It's normal. But the only problem is when you let it control you. If you have a fear, you should want to step into it. Anytime I felt like something, I was like feeling some sort of fear about something, I knew I had to step into it. I knew it. The moment that I felt, you know what? This is starting to get to a point where if I don't do something about this, it's going to control me for the rest of my life. So I step into it and I learn how to handle it. I learn how to overcome it by stepping into it. You don't get rid of fear of anything until you step into it. There's no easy way around it. If you're afraid of doing something, it's never going to go away. It's never, I will tell you right now, it will never go away. You have to step up to the plate. You have to get stronger. Even if you don't know what the fuck you're doing. If you're a nerd, if you're not attractive, if you're scared of women, then guess what? You have to step into that. You have to go talk to a woman. You have to go approach a woman. Even if you're studying, you're like, hey, miss, shaking and shit. You have to do that shit, bro. Go up to her. Doesn't matter if you fuck up. It's never gonna go away. What, are you gonna be a loser? Are you gonna be playing with your hand for the rest of your life? Is that the life that you want? You're afraid to start that business? Do you want to take orders from a fat motherfucker for the rest of your life? Do you want to have to wait 2 weeks to get that check? Or do you want to get paid today? If you want to get paid today, then guess what? You're going to have to handle that fear. You're going to have to learn how to manage it. The most successful people in this world doesn't mean they're not afraid. They know how to manage it. They know how to manage their emotions. They know how to control their mind as opposed to their mind controlling them. Because the mind is something that will always want to preserve you. The mind is something that will always want to keep you safe. So what is fear? Fear is a mechanism that your mind plays on you because it thinks there's some sort of danger, meaning false evidence appearing real. That's what fear is. False evidence appearing real. So your mind perceives some sort of threat. And so if you let your mind, you will never see, if you let your mind control you, you will never see what you're capable of. You will never be able to see what you're truly capable of. Because maybe you had a weird interaction in middle school or in high school with some chick. So now you have anxiety when you go up to talk to women. But guess what? Just because you had a weird interaction and your mind is now giving you signals to be afraid doesn't mean you should let that control you. Because you'll never see what you're capable of. Shit, you could be the next Hugh Hefner. But you'll never know if you let fear control you. As opposed to saying, this is a signal. This is my mind telling me that there's potential danger here. But if I know better and I know that that's not true, then step into it. Of course, if you're afraid of walking into a prison with a guy with a machete and he's a known serial killer and he's known to kill every single person that he's ever come in contact with, yeah, your mind is telling you, hey, you probably shouldn't go in there. That's okay, right? Because there's situations in life where you should be afraid. You should be afraid of jumping off that cliff because you're going to die if you do it. You should be afraid of jumping out of a plane with no parachute and skydiving with no parachute. Why? Because you're going to splatter on the ground because your mind is trying to tell you. But when you're afraid of things that do not have consequences, such as death, then guess what? You're keeping yourself from seeing your full capabilities. If you're afraid to turn on a camera and talk because you're afraid of what other people think, you're holding yourself back. Nobody's holding you back but yourself. Because let's think about this, right? Let's list them off. Turning on a camera and talking and sharing your opinions and your views. What's the potential upside? You can get a lot of people to think how you think. You can get people to view you. You can get people to pay you. You can get people to follow you. What's the downside? Oh, but people might talk bad about me. Is it going to kill you? What about that woman, right? Bad chick. You're afraid. What's the upside? You could beat them doonies down. You could have a kid. You could have the woman that you always wanted. Right? What's the downside? She might reject me and I'm scared. Okay, let's go to the next one. Business. You're afraid of starting a business because you're afraid of that paycheck and you might not get that paycheck. Okay, you go broke. That's it. What's the upsides? You have freedom. You control yourself. You control your schedule. You can build it. You can scale it. The sky is the limit on how much money you make. What's the fear? What were you saying? You can go broke? That's it? Are you going to die? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Am I going to die? If you're not going to die, then you have to step into that fear. You have to step into that fear. You're afraid to make that sales call? Make it. You're afraid to go knocking door to door? Do it. You're afraid to approach that woman? Approach her. You're afraid to start that business? Do it. You're afraid to become a boxer and get in the ring? Do it. Whatever you're afraid of, if you're not going to die, step into it today. Because if not, you're going to let it control you for the rest of your life. And then you will wonder when you're on your deathbed why you were such a loser and you lived such an insignificant life all your life. Why are you gonna wonder? You didn't control the fear controlled you. There's nothing to wonder about. You bitched out. You bitched out. When in reality, you could have said, fuck that. That's not the type of man that I am. That's not the type of woman that I am, right? And I'm not saying me. Hey, who knows? I might identify as a woman now, right? Nowadays, you can identify as whatever you want. Psych. If you are afraid of something, step into it. Step into it. Don't let it control you. This is your sign right now. Whatever it is that you're afraid of, do it. I want you to write it down. And I want you to make it your main focus. If you are afraid of something, write it down. And write the positive benefits on one side and write the negative benefits. Can you handle the negative benefits? Right? If you can, then do it. Can you handle going broke if you start that business? Well, shit, you're already broke, right? So what happens if you start it and you fail? You're back at ground zero. Okay, are you going to die from that? No, you're not going to die from it. Okay, what if you start that YouTube channel and people make fun of you? Okay, does it really matter? Does it really matter? Some people are afraid to go to the gym. Afraid to go to the gym. Why? Because they're afraid of what other people might say about them. Do you understand that nobody gives a fuck? Everyone's focusing on themselves. Nobody cares. And even if you do something so stupid, people are probably only going to remember for like 2 minutes, a day, 2 days. Does it really matter? 100 years. Let's say you live 100 years and you did one thing and people only remember it for 2 days. There's 365 days in a year, but you're stuck on it because you're afraid. Let's do better, brother. Let's go. That's the video for today.